Hey guys, Dennis Factor here. Today I'm going to be talking about the build that I showed to the showcase a week ago. This is the endgame gear that you need to have if you want to make this character. So basically, let's get right into it. So you see the resists are not that great. The armor is not that great. But the thing that's great is the evasion, right? So once you use your evasion flask, Jade flask, it jumps up to 95%. So we're basically capped on evasion as long as we have our flasks. And this is going to be constantly up during maps, so no problem with dodging attacks. Additionally, you're going to have something like a small amount of block, 24% if I recall correctly, chance to block attack damage 24%. So even on top of this, like even if you get hit by the 5%, you know there's a 24% chance to block the attack damage. And now for spells, so for the spells, the defensive setup is chance to dodge spells, you see here. And the way we get this is we go on our tree and we pick up all of these spell suppression nodes. They've been buffed this patch, so the nodes on the tree are actually giving you more spell suppression than you can get on gear. Okay, so this is really important. Just take all of these, 12% chance to suppress spell damage if your boots, helmet, and gloves are all evasion, which they are. You see evasion, 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 and I want to emphasize this: you want to get as much evasion on these items as you can, of course, and your shield is also evasion. So because all three are evasion, we're getting more spell suppression, and then we're getting on each of these items spell suppression. You see spell suppression here, spell suppression here, here. Okay, so this is what you want to get. You want to get to 150% chance spell suppression. Reason for that is acrobatics. Once you get to 150%, then we're going to have 75% chance to dodge spell hits instead of suppressing them. So basically, you see, we're evading all of the attacks, blocking some of the attacks, and then we're dodging 75% of the spells. But this is a little bit low. So additionally, we're also using Replica Mist Wall. In case you get hit, you don't dodge a spell, Replica Mist Wall comes to aid you with a 75% chance to block spell damage if you have not blocked recently. And this is going to be true because most of the time you're going to be dodging spells, right? So of course, when you block the spell, this is going to drop to 0 and you're going to be a little bit more squishier, prone to getting hit by spells, but that's absolutely fine. Also, you see this Replica Mist Wall is also giving you I need to improve this. This needs to be 15% chance to avoid physical damage from hits while phasing. This is really good. So 15% chance to avoid physical damage from hits while phasing. This also applies to spells, by the way. So if you have this on 15% chance, then every time you use your what's it called, the phasing flask, the quartz flask, you're gonna have not only this extra spell suppression, crit chance, whatever you placed on the flask, and phasing, but you're also going to get, while you have phasing, you're going to get this physical damage avoidance, 15%, which is huge. Again, we're just avoiding as much as possible, So this shield is mandatory. Okay, so you want to focus on the every single stat on this one is important. So evasion is important, fire and cold is important, and the avoidance is important as well. As I said, I need to improve this. Okay. Then let's get to the rest of the gear. So, of course, gloves, resistances, you see I have cast resistance, life, spell suppression. This is most important. So this is just life, spell suppression, and resistances on gloves. Evasion, if you can, that'd be great. Okay. Boots, same thing, right? But the only addition is movement speed. You gotta have some movement speed on top of it as well. So this is what I have here. But the evasion is a little bit lacking here on my boots, but that's okay. And the helmet is really important. So what I suggest, this is what I did. I bought a base that has the Frostblink cooldown on top of it, evasion base. Then I used my deafening essences of loading to craft this increased mana reservation efficiency of skills. And then you just spam it until you hit all of these suffixes, because this is a suffix, right? So increased mana reservation efficiency is a suffix. You just spam this until you hit the spell suppression, tier 2 at least. Spell suppression, and hopefully another positive suffix or an empty suffix. Okay, so you just want to get the suffixes out of the way. Once your suffixes are perfect, like I did here, so I hit the 10% increased mana reservation efficiency, and I got the tier 2 spell suppression, and I saw, oh wow, I have an open suffix, nice, I'm going to craft a suffix, it's done, your helmet is done. Now the next step you need to do, you need to make it so that your Searing Exarch is the dominant influence. and then you just spam it with Eldritch Currency until you hit something good. I hit huge amount of evasion rating and life, so this helmet is basically perfect for me. Perfect. I crafted it myself. It wasn't that expensive. I wasted something like maybe 1 or 2 divines, right? 1 or 2 divines to craft this is insane. And then of course you get mana reservation on top of it as well in the implicits. Critical strike chance for spells. This is important for Elemental Overload. One thing I wanted to talk about here, Elemental Overload for your Frostblink. So of course this is a Frostblink build. We're trying to scale the Frostblink as much as possible. So we're using this chest piece. That's going to give us, you see, +5 to level of movement gems, which is Frostblink of course, and then +2 to level of socketed duration gems. And coincidentally, Frostblink is also a duration gem, so we're getting 7 levels just from this item on this Frostblink. Of course, Frostblink is level 21, and then we're getting additional 3 levels from global modifiers, which is your replica Cold Iron Point, which is giving +3 as well. And this is how we get our Frostblink to this insane level of level 31. But what I want to talk about is Elemental Overload. So we're trying to get this global crit chance a little bit higher, so we can proc the Elemental Overload as consistently as possible. I would recommend you hit at least 12.5% chance to crit with Frostblink, so you can go on under offense and you can see spell critical strike chance 12.5 at least. I'm going to try to hit this a little bit higher even, but yeah, at least 12.5. Any way you know, right? So I'm getting some global crit chance here, getting some from level 1 precision actually. No, it's actually level 7 precision. Level 7 precision, and from the helmet, right? So the helmet is also giving me 30%. This one I can increase a little bit more, right? Because this is just lesser. We can make this something greater or grand, you know, then it's going to be much more consistent. But yeah, you want to make your elemental overload with Frostblink as consistent as possible. A little bit about how I made the chest. I just bought the chest piece with these modifiers on top of it. Somebody rolled this. This is insane. Then I just 6-socketed it through the bench. You just go to the bench. You place 4 sockets on top of it. Then you just use the tainted jeweler's orbs until you hit 6 socket. If it reduces, then you place 4 sockets, add a 1, add the 6th one, right? Until you hit those. Same process is when you're linking it, right? So once you have the 6 sockets set up, place it inside, and then you just get a 4 link on the bench. Then you spam tainted fusing. Hopefully it hits 6 links. Let's assume it did. Don't worry about the colors, because if you're using tainted chromatic orbs, it ignores the requirements of your gear, right? So it completely ignores the requirements, so it's absolutely random. You're gonna need 2 red, 2 green, 2 blue, so that's easy peasy, no problem. A little bit about links. So we're using life tap, we're using life to cast this. That's why we have this life flask, because sometimes it can be a little bit hectic, plus you want to restore your life. There is a variation of this build where you can use the Dissolution of Flesh jewel, which gives you 30% more life. Then we would have quite a bit more life, but the problem with that one is then every damage you take, it reserves your life, and you cannot restore it until it unreserves after 2 seconds. So I kind of didn't like that playstyle. Just went for as much life as I could get with this build as possible. It turned out well, you know, I'm just using life flask, absolutely fine. Okay, links. So Swift Affliction, just damage. Life tap, because we're using life. The mana cost is just too high for this skill. You could try something with Inspiration perhaps, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend. This is just good. So life tap, Swift Affliction, Frostblink of course, Deadly Ailments, this is just damage. Ignite Proliferation, you're going to swap with Unbound Ailments on bosses. So you place this on bosses, and you place this when you're clearing maps. It's really important. Cold to Fire, of course, we're converting all of our cold damage into fire. This is thanks to the gem and thanks to the fire ring, which we also qualityed. It's 48% of cold damage converted to fire. Means that we're converting 98% of cold damage to fire damage. This is really important. You gotta have this. You can have this level 11, so you can level with it as well. The other ring should be either really good rare, like I have it, so this is huge amounts of damage. You can use the Ember Wake, but the downside, so the Ember Wake would actually give you the same amount of damage that this one does, but the downside of Ember Wake is that you need to ignite the enemy 2 times, right? So you need to Frostblink once and then Frostblink twice if you want to apply the maximum damage, right? Because you need to apply 2 ignites with Ember Wake. With this one, you don't need to do this shenanigans. You're just getting the damage straight up. You just need to ignite them once, you're done. You can run away, you can dodge, whatever, you know? So it's much more convenient to have something like this. Plus, it's going to give you some life. Even hit some rarity on this. Rarity is pretty crazy right now. But okay. So yeah, this is for the rings, this is for the chest piece. The helmet I already explained, the boots I explained. A little bit about the links here, so I'm just using steel skin on my left click. You see it just keeps activating every time I move. It's absolutely fine. Can't level it more because I don't have the strength requirement, doesn't matter. Getting another buffer for your life pool, which is really nice. Clarity level 1. The reason for this is we need this Val clarity. This is something I explained in the last video. Basically how we are using our hatred aura is we're using Val clarity once it fills up, and then we can use hatred because it's linked to the blessing support, right? So it's divine blessing, hatred, and then we can just cast this for free as long as our Val clarity is active. The really nice thing about this is that you can activate your hatred aura any point in time during your Val clarity. So you can activate Val clarity immediately you activate the hatred. It lasts for something like the clarity lasts for 12 seconds. And then when Val clarity is something like 1 second left, you can again activate the hatred, which is going to last another 14 seconds. Because this one lasts 14 seconds, right? So effectively you can have this up something like 26 seconds in total for one use of Val clarity. You can even prolong this with something like this. Instead of taking damage here, for example, if you think you have enough damage, you can drop this, and instead you can go for non-curse aura skills have increased duration. What's this going to make is it's going to make your hatred last 50% longer. So it's not going to be 14 seconds, it's going to be 21 seconds. And then it's even easier to juggle this, right? You just use it immediately, and again, once Val clarity is soon to being over, you just reactivate it, and then it lasts another 21 seconds. So you can have it up permanently with that node. You can actually have it up permanently. If you take the non-curse aura skills, you have 50% increased duration. This is insane, right? But the increased damage for each of your aura is also insane because this is just permanent damage, right? We're using something like in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 auras, 7 times 8. Math is hard. 56% increased damage. This is quite a bit. Like this is huge, actually huge. So it's up to you how you want to use it. But yeah, that covers that. That covers these links. Frostbomb, we're using only Frostbomb on something like Metamorphs, which can constantly have some high regeneration, or maybe when we're fighting Maven bosses, you know, Maven likes to restore the life of enemies, then you just want to use this to stop that regeneration, because it reduces it by 75%. Pretty insane. You don't need to level this gem at all. Just stay at level 1. Yeah, Steel Skin Precision, just for a little bit of crit. This is nothing else, just a little bit of crit for Elemental Overload. If you're not using Elemental Overload, if you don't want to use it, then you don't need Precision. You can use something else, you know. Because Elemental Overload can be a little bit of inconsistent if you don't have the cap, right? At least 12.5%, and even this is a little bit low, right? Even this is a little bit low. Ideally, you would like to get it to something like 14%. That'll be ideal. But then you would need to invest a little bit more into the implicit on the helm. But okay, it is what it is. Here I also have the enchant, increased elemental damage per quality. This is nice. Just additional damage. You can grab this on the bench easily. Just find the modifier. You're going to need 5,000 of these blue guys. Then you just find it here somewhere. You see 5,000 increased elemental damage per 2% quality. Then you can even set it to 30% quality, you know, so you get 5% increased more. But, you know, not a deal. Not a big of a deal. And the amulet, it's just in presence with the fire damage. So this fire damage is also additive to your skill. It's just going to be added to the skill, which is really nice. Maximum life, also good. Resistance good. Attributes really good. Regenerate life per second really good. And then the most important one, flammability, has no reservation if you cast it as an aura, which we are doing, of course. We're blasphemy support somewhere. Blasphemy, flammability. And then finally Defiance Banner. Defiance Banner is really good because it's giving you the reduced critical strike chance taken from the enemies. You're always going to be up close and personal to enemies, so this is really good. And it also improves your evasion rating. Huge. Enlighten is linked to the most expensive auras, of course, in your helmet. It doesn't need to be in the helmet necessarily, but yeah. So it's going to be Enlighten level 3 at least. Purity of elements. So we're immune to all ailments. This is really important. Malevolence, all of damage, and grace, which is a lot of evasion. Crucial for this build. All of these auras are crucial for the build. This one for the ignite immunity, because we're susceptible to dots. We're susceptible to dots, but we're still going to suffer from ground effects. And then for ground effects, what we're taking is actually less shade. And this is for the ground effects. Take 50% less damage over time if you started taking damage over time in the past second. So every time you enter some crazy degen, this is going to reduce the damage by 50%. Like, you're just going to cut it in half, and this is insane for us. We need this. Yes, it gives 100% more duration of ailments on you, but as I said, we're already with purity of elements. We're ignoring ignite. We're ignoring ignite. We're immune to poison, so we're not getting poisoned from enemies during maps. And additionally, we're taking the Pantheon. And additionally, we're taking the Pantheon from Arakali, which is here. Reduced damage taken from damage over time. Resistance from that. And then we're also taking this, less damage taken from damage over time. Just trying to mitigate all of these dots as much as possible, because they are the bane of our existence. The Watcher's Eye is just grace, hatred. Anything that you can get that's positive is really nice, but you need the grace, chance to evade. This is what caps your evasion rating. This is really important. Then it's going to be capped because of this. Okay, and the last but not least is the flasks and the belt. So the belt is just a lot of strength. You need huge amounts of strength from the belt. Ideally, you would have something like evasion instead of this armor, and then you could craft something like damage instead of the evasion like I crafted, but this is also absolutely fine. You know, I get a lot of strength, a lot of resistances, and evasion rating really good. Instead of this armor, you could also have damage, for example, but yeah, it's really expensive then. And yeah, the last items, of course, a flask. If I get the bleeding effect on top of me, I just use this. We're immune to corrupting blood with one of the jewels. If I'm not mistaken, I did get one. Corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you, of course. So this is just to circumvent the bleeds. And then we have the rest of the flasks. The rest of the flasks just quartz flask. We need that phasing because it works in tandem with our replica mist wall. Also, you pass through enemies, which is really nice. To craft something like critical strike chance during flask effect. This is to help with elemental overload, because if you see if we use this, then our chance to get elemental overload rises by quite a bit. So this is really nice. Stibnite, this is just more evasion with the evasion rating. With this, we're pretty much capped on evasion once we use it, and then Jade Flask caps it off. But we also get the reduced effect of curses, which stacks with the Soul of Yugal for 30% curse reduction. So effectively, we're reducing something like 80% of curses, which is also really nice. And then finally, we have this Quicksilver Flask that just has the poison immunity and duration on top of it. Duration is kind of important because we want to get it as close to the duration of the other flasks as possible. So yeah, you can get something Quicksilver with poison immunity that lasts as long as possible. That would be optimal. And that pretty much covers it. I can show you the tree a little bit. So I went for Elemental Overload. By the way, at the start, you don't go this route, right? You go here, you pick up the Fire Talents, then you go here, pick up the Fire Talents, you pick up the Life, you go here. Because for Elemental Overload, you need a lot of investment, random shenanigans like I showed you. Dagger, the helmet, the flasks and stuff like that. So you're not going to be doing that at the start. You're going to go this way, you're going to take this, you're going to get some reservation efficiency, damage over time multipliers, then some more reservation efficiency, grace reservation efficiency, spell suppression life, and of course the cooldown reduction for Frostblink. So we're getting the cooldown reduction here, and we're getting it on the helmet. And that's all there is to it. Oh yeah, and also we're using Wind Dancer. So even when we get hit eventually, finally, when we freaking get hit, we're gonna take 20% less attack damage if we haven't been attacked recently. Trust me, you're not gonna be attacked recently. We have a lot of attack evasion, and we also have the block. So, but eventually when you do take damage, you take 20% less, which is quite insane. And yeah, that's basically all there is to it. The other rare jewels are just life, damage over time, and perhaps some critical strike chance, or as again for the elemental overload. See, I have some crit chance here with cold skills, crit chance here with cold skills. We're just trying to get it up a little bit more. But yeah, everything else is just life and damage basically. This is Watcher's Eye. Yeah. That's it. Everything else is just life nodes. See if I forgot something. No, that pretty much covers it. I went over the mana reservation efficiency. Of course, we're anointing sovereignty. Also, mana reservation efficiency here on the helmet as much as possible with the essence, with the implicit, then enlighten as well. And of course, on the tree, we're taking all of these and all of these. And again, with the grace mana reservation efficiency. We're just trying to get all of that reservation efficiency as high as possible, so we can have as many auras active as humanly possible. And yeah, the Arcanist brand. This is something I forgot. The Arcanist brand. We're going to link it to a lot of stuff. So we're going to link it to Wave of Conviction level 1, Flame Surge level 1. This amplifies your damage by quite a bit. Don't think about it too much. A Wave of Conviction as well, because of our ascendancy, we are Elementalist, so our exposure is just amplified. It's basically doubled. So Wave of Conviction is basically doubled. Really strong on bosses, and then the Arcanist brand just keeps casting Flame Surge, this one, Flame Surge, this one. You just slap it on the boss. You see this little light. Imagine that the toucan is the boss. You just place it on the boss, and then it keeps casting the spells, the Flame Surge and the Wave of Conviction constantly. You don't need to worry about it. And it also applies Combustion, which also gives you more damage against enemies. The implicits on the items you can check on the forum guide is just damage, spell suppression, damage, and Scorching Ground. When we are moving, we're leaving Scorching Ground. You're gonna charge into a boss. So this is a boss, the toucan is a boss. We charge into it. We drop the Scorching Ground while we are moving, and that means that he's taking extra damage. Something like, I think it's 10% extra damage, just because we're on top of it. So yeah, that's the build. That's how it works. You charge on top of them, you place this, whatever you want, just to debuff them, and you just keep spamming it. The ignite lasts for something like 5 seconds, so you just need to worry that you reapply it every 5 seconds. Then you can dodge, reapply it, dodge. Or if you're searching for elemental overload, so how do you know if you have your elemental overload active is if this highlights, gets a little diamond shape down here. So you can just keep spamming the Frostblink until you get the diamond shape. Then once you get it, you just charge on top of it, and you're going to be dealing 40% more, like on all of your damage. Or it's just 30%, I think. No, 40% actually. So this is not a multiplier that you get something like on your like this, you know, 25%. This is applied on your whole damage, and that's why it's so super strong, the elemental overload. So yeah, want to try to get that and item with it. And yeah, that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you want to, you can check out the forum guide. You can ask me there as well. I occasionally respond, not always, because I'm making crazy guides like this, playing the game, you know, and actually doing some commissions on Fiverr. People are asking me for builds like this, and this is one of them. So somebody asked me to make this build guide, so I did, and yeah, this is the result. Hope you guys liked it, and see you around. Bye bye.